Good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the final webinar of our Beehive Insurance webinar series. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited for today's topic, attracting talent in today's world. Quickly, I'd like to transition over to do a quick highlight of Beehive Insurance services. Beehive Insurance has a wide array of services available to our clients, and many of these go undiscussed or forgotten. We try to review them each year as we go through the renewal process and throughout the year with our clients. But if any of you have any questions regarding these services, please feel free to reach out to the Beehive Insurance team. We're happy to field your questions regarding these. I would like to highlight HR 360 in light of today's topic in attracting and talent in today and human resource management. HR 360 is an online database available to all of our clients at no cost. This is a database that's updated regularly by labor attorneys, so it has content that is current and up to date and is a great frontline resource for those everyday questions as you work to manage your workforce. Overall, I want to transition now just to make sure that we give ADP the appropriate amount of time. First and foremost, we'd like to thank our sponsor, ADP, for sponsoring today's event. We are excited to have 3 members of the ADP team joining us today. Heidi O'Hara, Dee Magleby, and Dr. Susan Hanold will be joining us today. Dr. Susan Hanold will be our keynote speaker, and we're excited for her and what she will have to share with us today. I am now going to turn the time over to Heidi O'Hara, as she's going to give us a brief overview of ADP services, and we're thankful for the opportunity that we have to partner with them and for you guys to have a little of an opportunity to hear what ADP does. Heidi, the time is yours.
Thank you, Spencer. This is Heidi O'Hara. I am your local ADP consultant. We can all agree that these uncertain times bring unique challenges. During the current global health challenge, there's very little that you can control. Depending on your location, industry, and size, today's environment is impacting every business differently. Your company may be downsizing, restructuring, or even growing. Your workforce may be working virtually or wondering how to return safely. No matter your situation, ADP has the tools and solutions to help you navigate what's next. There are 6 concerns that HR leaders are experiencing today. The first is return to workplace safely. The second is working virtually. How do you keep people engaged? The third is recruiting, hiring, and onboarding. What is your talent strategy? The fourth is cost control and restructuring. The fifth is unexpected growth, whether it's scaling up, it can also be scaling down. And the 6th is diversity, inclusion, and pay equity. So we're excited to have Dr. Susan Hanold, who is the VP of Talent Strategy and Mergers and Acquisitions at ADP. And she partners with our clients to provide advice and insight to help our clients build out their HR strategy. She was recently nominated as the top 300 women in HR technology you should follow and support, and she has many recent publications such as Dogs Bark, When Every Day is Take Your Child to Work Day, and We Need to Rethink Normal, Not Return to It. And you can find these publications on ADP's website. Susan has a PhD in leadership development from Texas A&M University, and I'm excited to have her speak to you today. So at this point, I'll hand this over to Dr. Susan Hanold.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here today. And we've got a lot of content and high impact, high energy for 30 minutes. So hopefully we definitely want your participation. We want this to be engaging. So would love to see you leverage the chat feature if you can. And y'all ready for me to kick off?
Yeah, just a technology check, Spencer, making sure that you can see Susan's presentation.
No problem. So a little bit about the group that I'm in. I'm with ADP. I'm in Dallas, Texas today. I'm in a group called Strategic Advisory Services. And my day-to-day job is I have the benefit of helping a lot of clients with advice and insight and the latest research that we're seeing and helping our clients build out their HR strategy. So I focus in the area of talent. So attracting, engaging, retaining are top of mind for me. And our team is product agnostic. So when we're helping our clients build out their strategy, there's a lot that can go into building out that talent ecosystem. So I'm happy to be here today. I'm going to start off with getting y'all with a poll and get y'all engaged here. What is the most top of mind right now for you? Is it remote working? Is it building a strong team? Or is it virtual collaboration? How do I stay connected? So is it remote working? Is it virtual collaboration? Or is it building strong teams? So if you'll just want to go ahead and put that into the chat, we'll get started and see what's top of mind right now. Fantastic. Okay, well, everybody get their thoughts in their chat, and we're going to keep moving through some of the slides. So we're going to quickly get through the one that's called Change Continues, and nothing is the same for me. I literally week to week, things are changing so quickly, and I'm having to be able to, change is the new normal, right? And I'm having conversations even with my own colleagues that are saying, wow, that was so 2 weeks ago. And really, how do you stay on top of it? And so employees are expecting employers to stay on top of the change too, and they want to see them transparent. So from an HR perspective and from a talent perspective, some of the things that I saw change were, remote workforce, staggering shifts having to change time, flexibility of working hours. There were temporary layoffs. Employers are looking at revising their benefit policies. People want greater flexibility and different pay vehicles. They are looking at financial and mental wellness now and reconfiguring the workplace. So that has also brought in, since we've stayed on this pandemic longer than any of us have anticipated. Now people are having to look at PTO, vacation time, restructuring operations, extension of mandatory remote work, and there's some companies that I've been working with that are struggling with, well, my headquarters may be virtual, but my frontline employees are working and the manufacturing facility is staying open. How do I create this fairness that within culture or communicate to multiple populations and make sure that everybody is getting an opportunity here to stay engaged and to stay well? So a lot going on from a change perspective. The next slide talks through what are the trends. So ADP, what we did is we broke it out by quarter 1, 2, and 3. And if we look, we know where we were pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. The labor market has completely shifted. We had severe labor shortages. And so for a talent ecosystem now on quarter 3, we have there is an opportunity to look for talent globally now, or all over the US. So take geography out of it today. The other piece is that so much of it has gone to virtual. So from a technology perspective, the digital transformation has gone faster. So on the very last point, it says work from home. It says 66% want to work, US professionals want to work from home post-pandemic. And 46 say that they work more hours or report higher productivity. So one of the opening questions was, how do I know as a manager that my employees are being productive and engaged? And that's a loaded question. That's a presentation in itself. But there's a lot of tips and things that I'm learning that different organizations are doing. And so this was a slide, and you will have this presentation, but it's interesting to see how things are continuing. And now companies are having to question, what are we going to be doing next year? I need to be forecasting this so I can make sure that employee experience, one, I can keep productivity and keep my company running. The second, I have my employees are engaged and have clear goals, can align to goals. So the next slide is really about the strategy workplace flexibility. And I think that's the bigger piece of it. Remote working is one piece of it, but the bigger strategy is workplace flexibility. So it's more than just having a policy. So in 2012, ADP created a role called the Director of Workplace Flexibility. We have this pre-COVID, we have this position. And it's very different now because the presentations we gave and the definitions are having to evolve. And the marketplace is different. But it has you looking at different things like your benefits packages, your attraction piece. Are people now looking for jobs, and are you posting for jobs that say, hey, there is flexibility right now in this job? And what are the actual critical tasks that have to be done for the role? So those are some things to be thinking about when it comes to workplace flexibility. And on the next slide is one of the things we learned from, and I work with our director of workplace flexibility very, very frequently. I mean, almost every day I'm talking to her. But what we basically started a list of like all the different words that we hear around this. So what is having a common definition within your own organization? So what is the common word that you're using? And do the executives know what it is? The managers know what it is, and the front line? Because what we found is, this was a few years back, is that our executives thought one thing and the employees thought another thing. And you really need to, one, start with a definition, and then two, do we have a policy, and then do we have the infrastructure to support it? And so that's one place, is one is just have a common learning and language for it. Now on the bottom, I put what I'm really seeing happen now. It's this recreating work as a blend of virtual and physical. So, and the digital culture in a virtual world. I really think that is happening. So from the attraction perspective, is there virtual hiring? Can you make decisions on hiring with interviewing, video interviewing? How are you onboarding? And how are you affecting that supply chain? So when you are sending that new laptop, it's not going to the office, but it's actually coming to the home or that new location of where that person's going to be. I think there's a lot of discussion on this slide about work from home, work from anywhere. Is it you go in the office for 3 days and you work from home 2 days? And I know all of this has a impact on the home life for sure, and has a lot of considerations right now and what happens to schedules, and I'm sure you're all feeling it. So just a lot here, and and invest. If you really think this is important to your culture, like ADP did, we created a role specifically for that, and you'll see in one of my last slides in the future roles that are coming up, wellness, future wellness roles, workplace flexibility, the future of work roles. I mean, all these are coming forward. So on the next slide, I want to share with you a resource. And the resource is a podcast that ADP has. So one of the areas I actually had the opportunity to partner with our HR leader that focuses on workplace flexibility. And we talked about how do you keep your team motivated during uncertain times. And so I don't know if you know we have this podcast out there, but it's a great resource for you if you're running out, blocking that time to exercise and learn. And this is a great one I would recommend. The second data point I want to share with you on the next slide is that research is showing that this is going to continue to increase. So it's best to get ahead of it and to be proactive. I've had some clients are actually saying, help me do business cases from an ROI perspective. If I don't bring the whole population back and I only bring some of the population back, how do I do that? How would it save money? What's the communication plan going to look like? And we're actually helping our accounts do that right now. So another stat is on the next slide. So I've got quite a bit of slides, so we'll be going quickly through these. So I'm just touching on a lot of things to make sure that you're getting a lot in your time today. And please chat in. I want to encourage you that if you have examples of things that are working well for your group or certain words that you're using for this remote working environment, telecommuting, work from anywhere, shift changes, please share. This is just looking at the investments in digital workspace. How have the following changed as a result of your investments in digital workplace? How is it helping you from a business perspective? And where are you wanting to have that employee touch point in that return? The next slide goes into that folks are actually saying it is going to be a hybrid workplace, that we are going to see that we're going to have to coexist and figure this out long term. Another resource for you is going to be ADP has something they call it the labor cloud. And if you look at how teams and org structures are today, the ability to resource projects based on the task, not necessarily by full time, but it may be I need a gig worker. So on the next slide, you'll see a book that is by Jeff Wald. He's our president of our work market. And they focus on sort of the gig economy, these remote workers that come to complete tasks. And I call it the labor cloud. But he really does a lot of research, Jeff Wald does. And if you follow him, he's really heavy into social media on what are the predictions of what's going to happen from the workforce. And then on the bottom, you'll see some different resources that I have found very helpful in looking over and finding more information on this topic. ADP has a study on called Workforce View 2020, and that one actually surveyed 32,000 employees about flexible workplace, and it was pre-pandemic. And then they did a survey post-pandemic workforce, June 2020, and it looks at the workforce 8 weeks after the pandemic, and that surveyed 24,000 U.S. Workers. And then below here are some folks out that do some stuff out on social media that I follow and have good insight. So one of the things I wanted to give you an example of is what are some companies doing? Like, so you say, okay, I want to really evaluate this and I want to maybe pilot test this. I wanted to share with you this hospitality client that actually created a committee, and they called it an employee advisory board. And on the next slide, you'll see some of the results of this study. So what they learned is that employees wanted to work 1 to 2 days at home. And when they were at home, this gave them a chance for less interruptions, a slower pace environment, and it gave them a chance to get away from the Zoom fatigue, right? The things that were a challenge was that they needed to get back. So then they also found out that when they came back, it gave them chances to be re-energized, but it also, some of the isolation prevented trust and relationship building without any offices. And so there was some creativity to the tech barriers. And so they did this for a 3-month observation period and are reevaluating it. So there's a lot of different ways to look at how can I have a strategy discussion and how do I get my employees involved. So one of the market trends, I have to pivot a little bit to payroll because shifting payment expectations are happening, and that is part of ADP's core is pay, is that there is a shift within the millennial workforce. The millennials and the Gen Z workers prefer pay cards over traditional banks. And so you may have seen this now. Nobody even wants to touch a credit card now. Like, we're all scared, right? Like, I will only control my credit card. I don't want to nobody touch it because of safety. And that non-traditional financial products are on the rise. So, online direct deposit, I just had a client conversation on that the other day, and it's really top of mind right now. And on the next side, what we're hearing too, because so many folks have been let go, is that how to help our clients and how to help folks with financial wellness. So across all generations, workers may be feeling financially stressed right now, and that's by all the generations. So being able to help them, and ADP does, we do have a mobile app where it actually takes you through where can I send my money, and if I want 20% to go to a 401k, 20 to my rent, and 20, it's educational. And I wish I would have had this when I was younger to help educate me and have those tools available. But so fantastic tools that are out there, but we do have to remember that this is top of mind for a lot of employees and making sure that we're able to shift our payment expectations. So we're going to keep moving on to digital transformation. So if we keep clicking through the slides, we're staying on the slides only a very top level here. But on digital transformation, I really want y'all to open up and share. What are you seeing from an IT perspective move up on your roadmap? So go ahead and type in, and I'm going to pause for a second and just see what folks are saying has really gone digital faster than they thought they would have at their company.
Susan, just one of the other comments too was around building stronger teams. So at some point, it'd be great we can address that.
Super. So are folks writing in what, I can't see the chat right here, but I'm curious what you're seeing come in.
Nothing yet, just
okay.
The teams.
All right, well, so we'll keep going. So on here, you'll just see some examples of what I'm seeing trend from the marketplace. One is around telehealth, virtual events. If you have an online learning system, that's really important right now because being able to get out, education, and as folks may be working in different roles right now, so that would be important to have, and any kind of way to communicate with your customer base. So if you have if you have a talent community, if you have a way to text to your candidates to attract them, if you happen to be in a recruiting role, to send them, are you hiring, are you not hiring, all the ways to communicate with your customers or your candidates, very important right now. Outsourcing, I've seen a trend within outsourcing, especially to scale up. So the companies that, some of the clients I'm working with now are working on the front lines of building some COVID tests, working in the hospitals, and they need to scale it very quickly, manufacturing. And they are using what's called our recruitment process outsourcing, RPO. And that's a really big business decision for companies to say, I do want to outsource part or some or all of a certain function. And in order for me to scale up with my headcount right now and be able to provide that for the quick need, but then scale back when I need to. And that's been honestly a really big conversation the last month or two. So I'm going to move down to teams, since we asked about high performing teams, and the topic, the slide is called the importance of teams. And ADP did a study, a global engagement study, that said, no matter where I'm working, as long as I feel like I'm part of a team, I will be more engaged. And this is part of the Marcus Buckingham group that ADP acquired 3 years ago. And it says, and I'm a big proponent of strengths, so he's known for strengths, but also did this engagement study. And I was working remotely before February happened, but I believe no matter where I work, as long as I feel like I'm part of a team, I will be more engaged. And if I trust my manager, then I'll even be more engaged. So that's really important to think about. And the other piece that I'm finding out right now is how many managers actually know what their team members are really doing and staying connected from a project perspective. I almost can guarantee my manager has no idea how many people I have connected with on a daily basis because the networks and the different projects I'm working on. So if I look at the next slide, is how are you staying? What is a team? How do you define a team? And then two, how are they showing up in your org structure? How do people know who is on a team? And then how today do you define a high performing team? So I have a lot of leaders that come to me and say, how do I know if they're being productive? And I would say, why would it be any different than before? So if you had a way like to check in, so if I was checking in and with my team members regularly and touching base with them, then that shows that my engagement will go up. And that's another piece of research that ADP did that says the more I'm able to check in and touch base with my employees, the more attention I give them, their engagement will go up. Now, there's a difference between check in and check up. I have to make sure that I'm not micromanaging and checking up, but it truly is a check in. So that's something that we're seeing that's really been helpful right now. And there's a tool called Standout, but you're allowed to, every week I go in and I do this and I say, what am I working on? Where do I need help? And what did I not like working on this week? And it's super easy. And then I get development tips that are sent to me every week. So I'm a big person where I don't want to have to go look out for anything. Like, feed it to me. And I'm sure people are probably laughing on the phone right now, like, just send me this stuff. And somehow they're like the best development tips that I love. I'll be like, oh my God, how do they know this? And the development is based on my strengths profile. So one of the important things that we said we were going to cover around teams was virtual collaboration. So if you skip 2 slides down, you'll see, one more slide down, yeah, this one, that there's tips. So these are some tips that I have found around virtual collaboration to help. One is to be inclusive. And to me, inclusive means really being able to have and share ideas in team meetings. So that means really having good meeting skills. And your meeting skills, well, anyway, they should be good, right? They shouldn't really change from pre-COVID to now. But being able to use, one, to be able to get people to open up when they're on the calls, when they're online. How do you encourage conversation and being able to get everybody to feel and to be communicated with? And you have to figure out what that is. And then be available to meet informally. And I'm sure you've heard this on a lot of the calls right now where people are using meet and greets. They're doing, online happy hours or coffee breaks. Or one tip that I heard is, Friday's not going to be video day. Or one of the things that I do with my associates is we agree who's going to be on video for that call. So we all don't have to be on video. Another tip is establish a rhythm. Because right now what I'm hearing from a lot of clients is there's just a lot of disruption into schedules. So anything you can do to have stability with your team is really is appreciated. And the last one is to drive visibility and recognize accomplishments. So being able to find ways to have people recognized, either put it in your agendas. It doesn't have to cost money. I worked with a client the other day who said, Susan, we don't have any money for recognition. We're not giving, bonuses like we wanted to. We don't have the budgets like we had before. I don't think they have to cost anything. But picking up the phone, sometimes people just want you to check in and say, how are you doing? And then thank them. So really having that part of the culture is important. And that will say a lot for your brand. So from an attraction perspective, all that's going to get out. How you treat people right now, will remember that. And that is part of your social media, and that's part of your referral of having really good brand recognition and what you're doing in the community right now. But from those team meetings right now, that virtual collaboration, these are a few tips. So I'm going to skip down I think we did talk about this one already, but was the check-ins. So ADP found by checking in more frequently with your team, the more attention you gave me, the higher my engagement. So I'm going to move down to, we're just jumping around here because we have so much to cover. So if there's something in here you're seeing in the notes, please share. If you've got some experience, if anybody's using some of these tools, had some success, please share them, or any questions. So this one's really, we're going to go to the next one, which talks about people are actually working harder and giving more time than they thought. So a lot of folks are wondering, like, is this really working? And we're finding that people are they're working harder than ever. So I have found that there's some folks that are working harder than ever. And what's important is making sure they're productive on the right things and not just being busy. So as a manager, really having clear goals. And the second one is, hey, I'm just barely getting by, and I'm going to do enough to get by. So how do I know who those employees are? And at some point, is there going to be burnout for the ones who are working too hard? So I was just on a call this morning with ADP has what we call business resource groups. And one of the things that somebody said is, how do I manage my calendar better? And how do I say no? And how do I keep from sort of the work-life blending too closely? So those are some really good questions for folks. And so what we're seeing is that soft skills are now the new currency: transparency, agility, and empathy. So that, technical skills are really important, right? But what's also important right now is being able to have a conversation and connect. So if your executives need to walk the talk, right? If they're going to say, we need you to take vacation, they need to actually role model and be transparent with, we're going to take vacation because our PTO banks are filling up and we're going to be at the end of the year and there's going to be a financial issue. There's an impact to us financially. Truly being transparent on the business perspective. And the last one is empathy and listening. So if you have right now, a lot of companies are offering free learning, and we have it within our learning curriculum, is empathy and how to ask good open-ended questions and how to be a great coach. So that we're seeing a trend. And lastly, I'm just going to put a little personal plug in here, and I have my dog Runway, because one of the big things I've learned right now is my poor dog is so tired of walking. I think she's like, oh my God, another walk. Oh my God, look, there she is. My coworker, she's actually asleep right now on my paperwork. But the way you treat your dog and make them your best friend, and how important it is to put human and human resource, and to really ask people how they're really doing and then mean it. The managers that really can do that is they're really going to help with turnover and retention of their clients and really help in the long term. The last slide I'm going to share with you is around the new model for jobs and careers. And this is the shift that we're seeing. So like for ADP, we've actually just did a big career growth and development rally, and we actually rolled out something called a mobile app on My Career Connect, which allows employees to look at what their current jobs are and figure out where they're going to navigate their paths. And those are really shifting right now because managers need to know what employee skills are, because they're changing. And this study that is up on the screen right now shows that workers do not think that their current job will exist in 5 years from today. So 1 in 5 jobs will not exist in the form they are today, or not exist at all. So there's a lot of change within the job descriptions. So anything you can do to be very clear about when you write a job description, how it's posted to be as critical and as simple as it can be, so it will attract somebody and it'll be easy, so you have the right folks in the pipeline. So the next slide talks about the new model for jobs and careers, which we walked through a little bit. One more, please. That one, perfect. So some companies may be pivoting a little bit between the two of these. Some may be in the traditional, some may be already in the today. But this is a great opportunity to really clarify who owns jobs and the careers. Do you want your employees to own it? Is it a blend? And is it up to me to go and find those jobs, or is it up to the managers? And how are you sharing those roles or those jobs right now within your organization? And then lastly, we said we were going to talk about onboarding. And I think there's 3 types of boarding happening right now. And on the next slide, you'll see onboarding will be reimagined. Because right now, I've seen a lot of clients doing some really good stuff, like they're showing videos, like this is what it's going to look like when you employee come back to our workplace. They're even doing it for customers, saying, hey, this is like, I'll just use one. One was a fitness chain. And they've done a great job communicating with me as a customer all along the way, trying to get me when I come back in, that I'm going to know what all the procedures are, what the check-in's going to look like. I mean, it's been fantastic. The same thing should be happening for onboarding, and I call it reboarding and offboarding and onboarding. So if you're offboarding anybody right now and you're having any downsizing, then that really is important, how you treat your employees. And then there's onboarding and then reboarding. So when you reboard your employees back, when they come back to the office, having that set up will be really important. And then lastly, I want to leave on a very positive note about the future of work and where things are going, is different jobs that are out there. So I would love to hear if anybody's doing this in the chat, or if you're seeing these positions, but like a director of well-being, an HR business continuity director, a future work leader. And I know with an ADP, we have several future work departments. This is a really cool one, HR data detective. And I've seen social media, oh God, what are they called? Investigators, folks that go and do deeper dive and really get into the data, and then chatbot coaches. And I'm sure y'all have seen a lot with chatbot coaches right now, but these are some of the HR jobs of the future. Harvard Business Review put this study out, and I think it's pretty fun I think it's actually a great icebreaker to ask companies, are they having to reimagine some roles to address what's happening in the marketplace today? So that's what I have for you today. I'd love to open it up for any kind of questions in the chat. And when I've got my LinkedIn on the last slide for you, and connect with any of the folks on the webinar today, and that I want to be a resource to you with any follow-up questions you may have. Anything in the chat that you're seeing?
Nothing in the chat, but Susan, amazing job. We'll give people just a few minutes if they've got any kind of follow-up questions or any additional details based on what you shared today. But really great insight. Really appreciate your expertise and insight today, and appreciate you making the time and joining us.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, you can tell I'm passionate about the topic, and there's just, y'all literally have so many topics on the set up. So we could go, if there's anything deeper that anybody would like to hear about or follow up with, please reach out to any of us on the call today. We're happy to be a resource for you.
Thank you so much, Susan. And thank you, Heidi and Dee, for joining us as well. Susan, the content was fantastic and certainly perfect given our current circumstances. So thank you. We'd also like to take a moment to thank the Beehive team behind the scenes for making this all possible. We couldn't do it without Laurie and Alicia and Brooke. Many of you are not hearing their voices, but it certainly wouldn't be possible without them. So thank you, Beehive team, for all of your work behind the scenes. Finally, we'd like to thank all of you, our client partners, and hope that you have found the webinar series to be beneficial during these unique times. We'd like to remind everyone that all webinars will be available for you and your team to view. We'll send out a link where you can access those webinars. This final webinar will be available about mid next week, as I mentioned before. And overall, thank you for your partnership, and hope you all have a wonderful week.